Scourged Maps are some of the most rewarding content to be added in Path of Exile in a long time. They're maybe not quite as consistent as some other money-making methods, at least if you're scourging them yourself. But if you're buying them, and you know what to look for, you can make absolutely insane returns. So how profitable are they? Yes, they give you all the profit. It's very hard to quantify because of that variance that I mentioned before. So to start with, what I'm going to do is break down some of the ways in which you can tell a good Scourged map from a bad Scourged map, and what you should do when scourging your own maps to try to maximize the rewards. But before I do, a quick reminder that if you find this video helpful, be sure to leave a like, sub to the channel, ring the bell, and let me know down in the comments below how it helped you, because it really does help push these videos in the algorithm, and a video doing well helps me to keep making content, and also to know what people like and what people don't like. So to start with, you need a good foundation for your Scourged map. That means a layout with a lot of Scourged rares. An example of a very bad layout is Strand. There's very few Scourged rares here, so even if it has the best mods, it's going to ultimately be quite disappointing. I guess Strand meta really did end years ago. On the other hand, a good layout might be something like Haunted Mansion, Relic Chambers, or Foundry. All of these maps have really good rare counts, and while some of the layouts like Relic Chambers are kind of terrible, ultimately, if you're just going to be selling it, that doesn't matter, and if it has good mods and is a good layout, that will increase the value significantly. If I run a Scourged map and I make 1x total returns from that map on Strand, I'd maybe make 2 to 4x on a better layout. The other really important factor is the shift modifier. Any sort of modifier that lets you control your shifting is going to be far more beneficial than one that doesn't. So the random shift stuff and shift when full is not nearly as valuable. This is because you want to shift as soon as possible. Whenever you have enough blood to shift, you should be shifting. This spawns more mobs, which means your corruption stacks go up faster, and it also means that you get more rares over the course of a map. Now, like with a lot of content, you can also juice maps. Although the juicing in this case doesn't work like how you might think. Several types of juice that we'd normally include in our maps, including various scarabs, are actually detrimental here. It seems to be that certain effects such as strongboxes, Nico, Alva, Xana, or Blight replace monsters within the map. The problem is they seem to just remove monsters from a Krangleverse, as those are counted as part of the map or something. I'm not really sure of the mechanics behind it. That would be a question for a GGG coder and not a YouTuber. But what I do know is you should avoid mechanics like this. In general, it seems to be anything that's clickable in your map is bad. On the other hand, if you want to be able to shift more reliably, you can definitely add things like Harbingers or Breaches, as these don't seem to interfere with a Scourge in the same way. You can also, of course, roll maps to have high pack size or increase it via the unique Watchstone. You can use Infused Nemesis and run Nemesis maps in general. And if you want to Scourge Nemesis maps in general, combining Scourge with Nemesis currency sextants is amazing because there's even more rares in your map and you're maximizing for rare monsters anyway. Which ties into the next one, which is rare monster Watchstone mods and sextants that add rare monsters. Then finally you can use things like the Twins Prophecy and Rebirth Prophecy. All of these things will greatly increase the value of the rare monsters in your maps by adding more and more and more of them. So if you run profitable reward outcomes, things like scarabs, splinters, stacked decks, expedition currency, or maps, you can easily make multiple exalts per map. The low end without many procs, I was getting about 2x back on a map that I would value at probably about 1x, since these weren't the greatest maps in a lot of cases, although some of them could have been valued a little bit less. On the other hand, the top end with prophecies, my best map got me 12 exalts and scarabs from one single map. And I probably could have sold that map for 4 or 5x, because even though it cost a little bit for all the prophecies and stuff that I used to juice it, a vast majority of the profit was already baked into the value of a map. Each Scourged map takes 10 to 15 minutes to run. This means that you're going to be running 4 to 6 an hour. Given some of the numbers that I just mentioned, and given the fact that you can often Scourge these maps yourself, so you'll have a steady supply of them, at least as long as you're mapping efficiently, well, Scourge is insanely profitable. If you set aside an hour to run a bunch of the Scourge maps you've built up, you could probably count on getting a minimum of 4x back, assuming that you discard maps that don't have good potential. And at a high end, you could make 40x in that hour. If you're going to be scourging them yourself, one thing I'd be careful to do is don't get hung up scourging maps with bad mods. If it rolls random shift, and let's just say fractured items as the first tier 1, just throw it out, start over. Ideally what you want is something that has one good reward type throughout the first 3 levels. So let's say it hits Simulacrum Splinters, Simulacrum Splinters, and Simulacrum Splinters. It's going to be very likely to keep adding to that stack of Sim Splinters, which will get more and more value as you scourge it up to 10. Similarly, if a map hits random shift, I would start over unless the reward is really good, because it's going to limit the top end value of a map significantly. And finally, don't worry about the downsides. Even if it has the worst downsides you can imagine, take it all the way up to tier 10 if it offers good rewards. The reason for this is you can sell it. For example, that Scarab map I mentioned earlier. Well, even if it had something like take 15k fizz on shift, I could have easily sold it for multiple exalts, and this is because, well, maybe your build can't do 15k fizz on shift, but someone else's build will be able to, and they're still probably going to come close to doubling their money by running that map. Now, maybe they won't quite double it because I am counting the twins proc that I got here, but even without the twins proc, you're going to be profiting multiple exalts, and who knows, maybe you don't sell it for 5x, but you sell it for 4x. I don't know about you, but I probably wouldn't be too unhappy with 4x from a map that I otherwise wouldn't be getting any value from anyway. Scourged maps are insanely profitable. It's really hard to put numbers and quantify it because there's so many factors here. Are you buying the maps? Are you just running them? Are you doing them as you go? All these things factor into exactly how much profit per hour you'll get. What I can say very safely is you'll probably average 2 to 5x in profit per Scourged map you run, provided it's a good base, it has good reward types, it has favorable modifiers, and you're juicing it correctly. So it's very safe to say that Scourge maps are some of the most rewarding content in Path of Exile. And if you say, well, that's cool and all, but I don't have a super powerful build, well, you can do all this in tier 1 maps, or maybe tier 9 if you're doing something a little spicier like Relic Chamber. Personally, I don't expect Scourge to stick around for next league. It feels too heavily flawed and there's too many bugs that haven't been fixed even though we're over a month in. It also feels like the Scourge rewards just aren't scaling properly right now. That there should be a reason to Scourge a tier 16 map over a tier 4 map, and right now there isn't. And before you say, yes, but I could get an item level 86 influence item. No, honestly, there is no reason to be doing high tier Scourge maps. The rewards don't scale because the disgustingly powerful rewards are currencies, stacked decks, scarabs, and splinters. Things that don't currently scale in any way with map level. But hopefully you found this video helpful, and in the future you'll be able to Scourge maps more efficiently, or maybe make some profit by trying your hand at buying some Scourge maps. I'd love to hear about your experiences with Scourge maps so far, and the most profitable one you've run, down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and again, a special thanks to my patrons and YouTube channel members. If you want to support me, you can do so by clicking the links down in the description below, or on screen right now. You can also support by making purchases through my Nexus page. Or if you just want to chill and hang out, be sure to join the Discord. Again, links for everything are down in the description below. Thank you, and have a great day.